Today's episode is being brought to you by Untarnished, Reclaiming My Self-Worth Through God's Untainted Love. Untarnished is a compelling memoir and simple self-help guide where I give you the inside scoop on my personal journey and provide coping strategies to help others heal from their past. You can download a free copy of the first chapter by heading over to donnacherie.com/untarnished. You're listening to Untarnished Moments, the podcast that helps you shine through life challenges and move past self-defeat into victory. I'm your host, Donna Cherie. Let's get into today's show. What's up, Overcomer? Welcome back to another episode of Untarnished Moments. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast, and be sure to share it with a friend, a loved one, and just someone that you know. I'm sure that you have someone that you have in mind who can benefit from listening to the show. So today I have a special guest. Her name is Chosen, and she's here to share her story of triumph with us. And I'm sure that you'll be able to receive at least one thing that will help you to move past self-defeat into victory, into your own journey. So welcome to the show, Chosen.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Yes. So I always say it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint, just exactly. But I feel that the most, what I want to get out of sharing is that I am a child of God and was born with purpose. And so what I do is I am in the arts. And so I love to write songs and I rap and I dabble in the singing and I paint and I draw and craft sometimes and anything along the arts that I love to try to put my hand in. And then aside from that, I am an associate pastor at my church, which is called Livingstones Community Fellowship. And we're in Ontario, Canada. We're just a little east of Toronto. I say that because most people have heard of Toronto. And we do ministry here with at-risk youth and anyone in the community that's in need, and we do our best to just share the love of God.
Wonderful. As far as just your journey and how you got to this point, what did life look like a little bit before this, and how have you navigated to get to the point where you are now?
So my grandma actually, back when I was 3-4, my grandma would take my sister and I. So I feel like it's the gospel and all that has been planted in me at an early age. But I struggled with abuse at a young age and really just struggled with my worth and identity. And so I, in my preteen and teen years, I really struggled a lot. And I didn't really, I'd go to church, but it was I went to church because there was a cute boy or, there's fun games happening that night or whatever. But I would say that as I got a little bit older and started on that journey discovering God's love for me, I ended up finding out that I was pregnant. And at the time I was a single mom. And I would say that is when I really started to discover God's love for me, just seeing it the way that I would see my child, my son, the way that I looked at him, the way that I loved him, and the unconditional love. So since then, he'll be 18 in October. So I'd say for over the past 18, 19 years is when I truly have come to learn about God's unconditional love for me and his grace. And so on that journey, it's been, it's definitely been a roller coaster, I'd say, and ups and downs and discovering who I am. And I met my husband along that journey. And got involved in ministry more. And it really wasn't until I started to volunteer and just help others, and I started to just see the love of Christ through just helping people and loving people. And yeah.
Okay. And how did the traumatic experience that you faced at a young age impact your sense of self and your mental well-being throughout your life?
Being abused at, I believe, I faced different forms of abuse, but I would say I was roughly 10, 11, and around that age. My abuser was a friend to my parents and a neighbor, and it really impacted me in many ways, because as far as like even with the Lord, I wondered, why me? Where was God in that moment? And struggled to, it affected me feeling safe around my own father, and right up into relationships. My trust, there was very little trust when it came to men, and right into my own marriage. And it took a toll that way. It took a toll mentally, because I would just, blame my husband or blame others. And, I just couldn't trust anyone, and especially, men. And so I find that my innocence at a young age was taken away. My eyes were open to a lot of things that no child should know and see. And so it led me on a path of a lot of resentment, a lot of hurt, a lot of anger. I struggled with anger a lot. And so it really has, taken a large toll on my life. I feel like in some ways I was robbed of certain things that other people had gotten, just to be happy and stuff. For me, I had to search for happiness. I had to search for joy. It didn't come easy to me during those times.
Yeah, and that is a lot to deal with. So, how has your faith played a role in your healing process?
I'm eternally grateful to my grandma, not just my grandma for taking myself to church and planting that in me at a young age, but even my parents. As I've been in ministry myself, I've come along some people who don't want their kids to go to church or to go to these youth groups, and it saddens me a lot, because I know that, the spiritual side obviously plays a huge role, but for me, it was those practical things and learning how to, just like the fruits of the spirit, to love others and to find what true joy is, and to be good and to be kind. And just learning those things as a kid, these things were all planted in me at a young age. So I had faith since I can remember. But it's helped me through my trauma by understanding that it's beyond my control. It's out of my control, in a sense, to where when I put things into God's hands and allow the Lord to move in my life, even in the midst of these trials and tribulations, I have found a sense of peace. I have found that joy. I have discovered God's deep love for me, his grace for me, freedom in those things. And so I truly believe, like, had my grandma not planted that in me at a young age, I'm not sure, where my journey would have ended up. But I've discovered along the way, I've discovered that in a deeper sense. But just, my parents allowing me to go to church and allowing me to go to these events. And even though they didn't go to church themselves, they never kept that from me. If I wanted to go, they respected that. When I went through a time in my life when I didn't want to go to church, and they never pushed me, they never forced me. And I kind of would say, like, it was always organic. It was always me choosing. And through that, I have discovered so much about God's love for me.
When it comes to discovering God's love, I know that faith is definitely, a huge part of your journey. What are some practical things that you did regularly or consistently to recognize God's love for you?
I think for me, God speaks to us all in different ways. I know for me, I can't just be told something. I need to either experience it myself or see it for myself. So I'm one of those people where it's like, I got to see it to believe it. And that can be difficult. It's definitely has frustrated me at times, but God knows how we operate. So for me, He knows that I can't just be told, oh, pray about it, or, just go to church or read this, message or watch this video. And so for me, it's literally been through signs and wonders in a way, like through nature. One time I was walking and the shadow on the ground from above, the way two leaves on a tree were meeting, it made a heart symbol on the ground. And so things like that really catch my attention. Or when I see butterflies, or even just looking at the water, whatever, like these symbols that represent God being near to me. And so I've discovered His love through those things, through seeing that He's all around, He's with me. And up to just recently, the other day, I've been going through a lot personally in my life, and then Tuesday was a really crazy day, and I've been in tears a lot and just going through a lot, and I had to get the bus back up this way. The bus driver was rude to me, and I was just like, how much more can I take? And then I get off the bus and it starts to rain, and I'm like, now this. And in that moment, the rain stopped and the clouds broke and the sun shined through. And it brings me to tears almost thinking about it again, just how in that moment God was saying, I'm here, I love you, I care, I am here and I'm listening to you, and here is your sunshine that you need. And the sun, before I could even take a picture, the clouds covered it again. But in that moment, I was reassured that He is here and He loves me and He's not going anywhere, and I can lean into that and be okay.
That's so beautiful. And I love when God does that, when he just speaks to us or shows us in a way that we can understand and just know without a shadow of a doubt that it's Him, and that He's just reaffirming His love toward us. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, Chosen, what was your breaking point in which you stopped putting matters into your own hands and allowed God to help you accept His love?
Oh, there's been so many, so many moments where that's happened. But I would go back again to when I found out I was pregnant, because I came from a lifestyle of not making the best choices and not valuing my body and my worth, and so I wouldn't make the best choices in regards to that. And I was doing okay for a little bit and then fell short once again. And it was, I was upset with myself. I was quite discouraged. I was in ministry at the time. I wasn't asked to remove myself, but I did. I didn't feel right sharing any type of messages or leading people all the while I was pregnant. And so I stepped out from ministry and just kind of didn't know anymore. And when I'd say that is one significant breaking point, because it was out of my hands. I didn't know, I wasn't prepared to be a mom. I didn't have the money to be a mom. My son's birth father rejected me and the fact that I was pregnant, and has never cared to ever reach out or see my son. And so there was a lot of moments in that time of my life where I just knew that okay, if I'm going to have this child, then I need you, Lord, to help me. And so for myself, that is one where I had to accept that God's got me no matter what. No matter what, he will provide. So if it came to finances, if it came to just love for my son or the energy or whatever it was that I needed, I knew that God would provide, and I had to let go and let God have control there fully. But there's been many moments where I've had to accept. Right now, currently too, what I'm going through in life, and I have a parent that's not well, and my other parents, struggling too. And no matter how much I wish I could save them and protect them, I know that this is in God's hands, and to allow his will to be done, and to just lean into him and trust in him, and to be covered by his goodness. And so I have to accept that, this stuff happens in life, and it's not fair and it's not easy, but I have to lean into him and allow him to have control.
Amen. And when it comes to working with the at-risk youth, what are some ways you might be helping them to understand their worth? Is that something or an area that you focus on with them?
Oh, absolutely. I would say that the biggest, actually, it's nothing in particular where some people would think it's, a typical evening on youth night, the kids come in, we play games, we do a lesson, we eat, we talk. But I truly find it's in the moments of where I just listen to them and have a conversation with them. And when they don't feel heard anywhere else, that they feel heard when they're in my presence, and that they understand that they are loved first by just me acting out God's love to them, and then sharing through the messages and stuff like that, making it practical. It's easy to say, it's easy to preach the Bible, but to make it practical, that's where, we put it into practice, right? And so for me, working with the youth, I've helped them discover, and some of them, this is from over the years too, discovering their worth, discovering their gifts, their talents. I'll sing for them sometimes, or sometimes I've written raps with a couple of them, or I'll paint with them and encourage them and cheer them on. And yeah, so that's kind of my role. But I've truly found that, some of them are my neighbors. And so I see them on a regular basis. So sometimes they'll come knocking on the door, can we come over? Can we have popcorn? And, I'm really close with their parents. And so they're like, yeah, sure. And they'll come over, watch a movie with popcorn. They hang out with my son, and we just welcome them and love them regardless of their, financial status, or, if they're in a one single parent home, or, we don't look at them any differently.
Yeah, and it just reminds me too about like just showing someone love means so much, and we just plant those seeds of love, and we never know how it's gonna, return back, or the things that someone can accomplish. And in basing your own life, I know that you have your grandmother, your parents, and your husband and your son. But, at the time where you were just going through and figuring out your identity, was there anyone else in your life who was kind of like that beacon of hope, or who expressed love toward you?
Yeah, I truly have been blessed with great people in my life who have, over the years, there's been in different seasons. Sometimes there's different people, right? And so you see, though, God move through them in those different areas of my life throughout. And so in the most difficult times, just having people who have been through similar things, talk to me. I even just pray and ask for God to bring somebody to my mind who I can reach out to, and people to just listen to me. And sometimes there's people that guide me, and someone significant at the time of me finding out I was pregnant was a lady who, her name's Sherry, and she was quite bold, because I was my mind frame, I just wasn't in the right place mentally at the time when I found out I was pregnant. And she was pretty bold and told me about the Lord. I know God's love and I know God's will. And she really thought and encouraged for me to have my baby and to raise my baby. And she was willing to even, if that meant me to never speak to her again, she was willing to take that sacrifice if that meant my son having life. And so, yeah, definitely her. And I think I mentioned my sister too. My sister and I go through some similar things and stuff too. So, yeah, just having just other awesome people to walk alongside me.
In what ways has your art and the establishment of your company, ChosenArts, helped you find purpose and positively impact your community?
So I would say, because for me, it was always, I would paint and draw and write and rap just for my own kind of therapeutic reasons. And, it helped me get through a lot. And then I started to see kind of like people respond to, I'm a female, I'm Christian, I'm this white girl from Canada, and I rap. And so people would think, well, that's strange. And they just would listen and so I noticed the kind of the attention I would catch. And I thought, well, I don't want this to go to waste. So I'm going to start sharing about my journey and God's love for me throughout my life and different moments of my life. And so I started writing songs with a purpose to, and also I'm a very shy person in nature. And so I was like, how can I reach people and how can I get beyond, even if it was like, certain shows that I perform at or whatever, how can I get beyond that and really reach people? And so I put together a CD called Walk With Me. And it's all about my journey over the years and different parts of my life where, God showed up. And so I just share about my story throughout that CD and I'm able to reach others through that, people that I'll probably never meet in person with, but whoever hears my songs and yeah. And then as I started branching out again into my painting and my drawing, I thought, well, how can I paint with a purpose? And so I live in a low income community, and a lot of people are struggling just to pay, for groceries or, milk and cheese and eggs and bread, the necessities. And so I started to paint and started to sell my paintings so that I could give back. And so I've lost track, but I'd say to date, I've been able to give back to probably like 50 plus families, whether it's with groceries, a little bit of help with rent, backpacks for school supplies for school. And it's not just me. I have a lot of great supporters who buy my stuff and support me and what I do. And I know I couldn't do it without them. And so it definitely takes a village. And I have a good support network of people that, want to give back. And I have that connection. And, I have a heart for outside of my community too. But I've always believed that, care for those right here first. And so I have a passion to just help anyone that I know is in need. Yeah, wherever there's a need, if I can help, I will.
That's awesome and so true what you said, that we should help those who are just around us, and just be mindful of someone who's in need. And I just encourage you to keep on doing that. And I'm sure that the Lord will bless you in return, and just your heart to serve. So keep on. What advice or encouragement would you give to a woman of faith who may be struggling with her identity, past traumas, or feeling held back from fulfilling her purpose?
I think for me, what it came down to is there's a lady I know, pastor I know, she used to say, "Okay, carcass, let's go." And I didn't fully get it, or I always thought it was silly or weird. But basically, it was, even when you don't feel like it, do it anyways, even when you don't feel like going. And this is, I mean, like the things that God puts before you. So not things that aren't worth your while, but things that God wants you to go. And sometimes we stay in our comfort zone, and sometimes we just stay in bed or stay at home. And if I had it my way, I'd stay home every single day of my life and never go anywhere, because I just love to be home. I love to be with the ones I love, and that's it. But I know that God has called me to share my story, and through those moments where I'm sharing my story, or where I get the opportunity to go and speak or preach or whatever it is, I begin to see God move. And it's the most incredible thing, is when you can be used by God, and to know that He has set me apart, He set you apart. He wants to use us for His glory, and to be a part of that master plan is amazing. And so even though there's times that I don't feel like doing anything, I don't feel like talking, I don't feel like even getting out of my bed, but God has something planned for me that day, I do it anyways. And I have found a lot of healing even in those moments, and I found a lot of freedom in those moments too, that I wouldn't otherwise have. But to truly just see God move, there's nothing better. And I can't count the times that I end up going and then I end up sharing my songs or sharing my story, and somebody will say to me that I've encouraged them, or I've inspired them, or what I've said they really related to. And there's no greater feeling than to know that God is using me for His purpose.
So where can people stay connected to you, or is that CD available somewhere?
So yeah, they can find me. So on Instagram, it's ChosenArts81 is the tag, and then on Facebook, ChosenArts. And then through that, if they're interested in the CDs aren't as, I'm old school, so I don't really I don't have those though much anymore, but I'm always, free to send it through them via email or through that kind of platform. I definitely I'm supposed to already have the Spotify, but hopefully in the near future I can get on that too. But I'm pretty old school, so it takes me a while to accept the times that are changing and stuff. So, but I'm always open to if anyone's interested in hearing more or whatever. I'm absolutely okay with sending it to them and letting them hear. And maybe there's certain parts of my story that they're really interested in hearing. I have a song written to my son, and one to my husband, and one about my love story with God. And yeah, so I'm always open to sharing that in any way I can.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chosen, for coming on the show today. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate having this platform and talking with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. All right, guys. Until next time, ciao. Hey, Overcomers. Thanks for tuning in. For more information, head on over to DonnaCherie.com. If you want to find me online, I'm at I am Donna Cherie on Instagram and Donna Cherie on Facebook. Don't forget to join the Overcomers Confidence Club Facebook community. And of course, if you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes.